Hello, hello. Um, how are you this Thursday afternoon or evening for those of you guys on the East Coast? Thank you so much for being here. I'm Yana, and I really appreciate that you're watching this. The fact that you're watching this really means that you love and care about your husband and your family, and that you're truly committed to the success of your relationship. And honestly, I can't imagine anything that's more important than your relationship with your husband and your family. So, I want to know before I move on, I want to know who's watching with me. So, if you're getting on, the live, just type your name, or don't type your name because that's already a given. Type where you're from, um, you know, how long you've been married. Just say hello. I want to know who's here. I love interacting with all of you. I love knowing who's here. So, I love connecting with women. That is my superpower. So I want to connect with you. And I swear, I feel like with COVID, I've just been missing that human connection. So, the more we can connect online, I really appreciate that. So say hello. In today's live show, I'm gonna actually be sharing with you a lot of great ideas and tools. And if you stay with me until the end, I promise that you're gonna have some really great tools that you can put in your toolbox in the communication department um, that you can literally start implementing today in your relationship. Also, at the end, I'm going to have a very special announcement. So make sure that you stay until the end. This live is going to be about like 30, maybe, no, probably won't even be more than 30 minutes. So I haven't made this announcement to anybody. So make sure that you stay until the end to hear this announcement, okay? So like 30 minutes tops. Um, so yeah, while you guys are posting who's here, say hello. I see some people logging on. I'm gonna turn this live on my phone so I can see the comments, see who's posting. Cause in this, okay, there we go. Awesome. Okay. So once again, I'm Yana, and hold on, okay, there we go. I'm Yana, and I'm a marriage coach. I absolutely love helping women create marriages that they love. And everything that I teach, everything that I post in all my content in this group, in all my coaching programs, everything that I do is based on not only 15 years of training as a coach and doing a ton of research, for my own relationship and my marriage. I've been married for I've been married for 9 years. Our anniversary just passed. And with my husband for 15 years. So I've always been really interested in really knowing what works, what doesn't work, and really kind of being like this detective about relationships, about marriage. And that's, when I discovered that I really want to help other women to have amazing relationships where they feel good about themselves. That is my main focus about everything that I talk about. Everything that I teach in my programs is really discovering what has you feel good and what has you be aligned with who you are. Because most of our problems, most of the stuff that comes up in our marriage, I truly believe comes, or relationships are like mirrors for us. So most of the stuff that comes up for us is an opportunity for us to grow and to really look at where, we're not growing, where we're not complete with certain things, with certain wounds, with past things. So I won't get too much, in depth about that stuff, but that is the core of what I believe is really digging deep into who you are and where you're stuck. And then we go into, the strategies. So I'm going to say hello. Hi, honey. Hi, Jessica. So good to see you from Berkeley. As you're logging in, say hello. I want to know you. I want to connect with you. So, do you guys know that 8 out of 10 women say that the communication in their marriage is broken? I mean, when I ask and I do a poll, that's what most women say, is that the communication in their marriage is broken. And, for me, what I see in that, because communication, for a lot of us, we think that it's a strategy, it's something that can be fixed. And if we, learn the right tools, if we learn the right strategies, it really can be something that can be transformed. And what I truly believe is communication is kind of the surface stuff. Communication is just, us using language to what is really underneath. So, I really believe that if you are identifying communication as something that is broken in your relationship, I want you to ask yourself why. Why do you feel that it's broken? Like, what's really underneath it? Is it that you feel disempowered in your communication? Is it that, you guys are arguing about the same thing over and over? Is it that you're withdrawing and you're feeling disconnected? So really ask yourself, hi Heather, what that is. I miss you, girl. Heather is somebody that was in one of my coaching programs. So hi Heather, so good to see you. Anyways, so, I want you to ask actually post it in the comments. If you agree, if communication is something where, you think that that is the major problem in your relationship, I want you to really look and ask yourself why. Like, what is it about the communication with your husband, with your partner, that doesn't work? Like, where is it broken? I really want to hear this from you. And I want you to do, this work for yourself. Most of the women that I talk to, they share with me that they either feel disempowered or that their husband doesn't listen to them. A lot of women say that he withdraws and she just can't get him to open up. Or a lot of women say that there's no communication at all. Or they just feel like they're speaking two different languages, because the truth is men and women are different and we do speak two different languages. So what is it for you? I really want to hear. So Heather, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for saying that. She's saying that the coaching that I gave her has been so helpful in my relationship with myself and then with my partner. I'm so glad. We have to catch up so I can hear where you are now, because this is like a year ago. That's awesome. So, back to that conversation, for me in my relationship, in my communication with my husband, sometimes I feel that, we start a conversation with all the great intentions, and then before we know it, we're in an argument, or even worse, I withdraw. And I want to shut down. This is like my automatic way that I am. So do you feel like this ever? Maybe he's the one who's shutting down. So how do you feel in your communication? I really want to know. And, if you are feeling a certain way, I guarantee you that there are so many other women that have been where you are. And I've probably been where you are, because it's not, like, no marriage is perfect. No communication is perfect. So this is, a way for you to really get connected to others and to really know that you're not alone, and to really become conscious of where you are. That's why these lives are so powerful. So, a lot of us, we talk about communication being the biggest problem in our marriage, and we talk about, that it's something that's not working. But really, how many of us are actually learning about different tools and implementing them in our relationships? Not a lot. We just kind of wake up and we go about our day, and then we wait until we have a meltdown or whatever, a breakdown. I'm using the word meltdown because with my kids a lot, but like a breakdown, and then, we get into an argument and we kind of react. So first of all, the fact that you're here today and that you're listening to this and you're learning and that you're growing, I really acknowledge you. That is amazing. A lot of people, don't do that. So one of the main, kind of recipes to success is to actually learn, because we don't learn this stuff, in school. I mean, I was a communication major, and I never learned about differences in communication between men and women. We just don't learn about that stuff. So the fact that you're actually learning, this says a lot. There are, so many different tools and tactics to learn that you can actually make shifts in your communication, in your marriage. And today, I'm going to actually teach you guys a lot of different strategies. Last week, in the live show, I talked about, more mindset. I talked about some strategies, but I talked a lot about, you know, mindset and shifting your context. So if you haven't watched the show from last week, make sure that you go and watch it before you start applying these strategies. Because you cannot use strategies without having and being in the right mindset. Because if you're coming from a context of this isn't going to work, or he's an a-hole, or whatever it is, then the strategies are not going to really work. They're just going to be like putting, I don't know, putting a cherry on top of like a mud pie, or I don't know if that's even a saying, but I'm so bad at different sayings. But like literally, you have to, set the foundation, and the mindset is that foundation. So make sure you go back, watch the live from last week. It's called 3 Things You Must Do to Have Great Communication with Your Husband. So you can actually help, get help in shifting your mindset, and then you can also start applying these strategies. And when you bring all of it together and you shift your mindset, you apply the strategies, like magic happens, and you're actually going to start to have amazing results when you communicate to your husband. I promise you. It's just the implementation is where the magic is. So when you learn these tools, make sure that you actually implement them and you actually do that work. Okay? So let's see who's here. I'm going to just take a sip of water. Hi, Laura. So good to see you. Laura's another friend that was in, or client that was in the coaching program. So good to see you, Laura. Awesome. So in today's live, I'm going to be sharing with you the actual phrases and phases and strategies that will be helpful for you to avoid conflict. And like I said, if you actually implement these strategies, I promise you your communication is gonna transform. Okay? I really do promise you. And you're gonna save yourself so many heartaches and breakdowns in your relationship. So make sure that you listen till the end, and don't log off. So first, what I want to say about communication. Communication is not just about talking. Communication is also about listening. I think so many women, we think that we're such great communicators. And I hear this often from women. They tell me like, I'm such a great communicator, and my husband, he just refuses to communicate. Well, if you're not actually practicing listening to him, like intentionally, chances are he's not going to see a point in saying anything. Most of the time when we listen, we're not actually listening. We're thinking about what we're going to say, we're judging, we're evaluating, we're agreeing, we're disagreeing in our mind, and we're already like on to the next thing. So we're not actually listening. And, men are very practical. Men, they communicate to just problem solve and get to a point. They want to know what is the point. So, and women, we're very different. We communicate to connect, and we want to be heard. We want to be seen. So we communicate so we can connect with, with our partner, to share our feelings and so on. Men don't talk like that. They don't communicate like that. It's not even about talking. They simply don't communicate like that. And, the problem that happens is when you communicate with your husband just to connect and be heard, the communication usually is just single-sided. You're the one who's communicating, but if he doesn't see a point to talk or to communicate with you, like he doesn't feel like he's going to be listened to, most of the time he's going to shut down and he's not going to say anything because there's no point. And men, they need to have a point of the communication. So I'm going to give you some tools, and I'm going to go over actually some rules before I even give you the tools that I highly recommend that you implement when you're communicating with your partner. And this is not, natural for us women. So if you want, actually, if you want a worksheet or something where, where, where you can download these rules, let me know, and I can create a great worksheet for you that you can have, that you can kind of keep present for you. But let's go over these rules before you even start communication. Okay, these are some strategies, or not strategies, these are some rules. The strategies we'll talk about after, that I want you to keep in mind. And I want you to also make these agreements with your partner before you start the conversation. Instead of just jumping into a conversation, it's very powerful when you actually have a conversation and make agreements with your partner of how it's going to go. So one of the rules that you can talk to him about is that whoever's speaking has the floor. So, you also have to agree to this. So if he's speaking, there's no interruption, and he's the one who's speaking. And if you're speaking, there's also no interruption from his end, and you just get to speak. Another thing that my husband actually and I, we, when we're intentional about our communication, we make an agreement where there's no judging going on, where we just listen to each other. So that is another agreement that you can make, is really to just listen to each other and really get that that is his perspective and this is your perspective. So that is something that you can agree to, when you talk and make the rules up. Then make sure that you guys agree that both people get the floor, that both of you get a turn to speak. A lot of times we just come at our partners and we start speaking and then we're done. And there's no two-way communication happening. So make sure that you make the agreement that both of you get to speak. And then the last rule that you can make with him is, or the last agreement, I should say, is that you agree on an intention. Is it, for you guys to problem solve? Is it to, accomplish something in the conversation? Is it actually the opposite of problem solving and you just want to be heard? A lot of times I'll tell my husband, because men, they're very focused on problem solving. So a lot of times I'll tell my husband, hey babe, I really, I want to say some things. I don't want you to come up with a solution. I don't want you to problem solve or there's no point to this conversation. I just want to share my feelings with you, and can you just listen? And he's like, okay, great. So that's an agreement. Or, hey, this, I want us to talk about the kids' school and how we're going to manage the timing of their school. Can we have a conversation? That's an agreement, or that's the intention of the conversation. And it's so amazing when you actually state this intention of the conversation, because then you have like a map of where you're going, and it's very powerful. So, sorry, I'm looking at the comments. If you haven't said hello, please say hello. And if you're watching the replay, please say replay so I know who's watching. So this is rules for the both of you. And then, I'm going to go over some rules for the speaker. If you're going to be the speaker, obviously your husband is not here, so I'm just going to be talking to you. So I'm going to go over some rules for you, if you're the speaker, and then rules for you when you're the listener. And then we're going to get to the phrases and the dialogue and the actual words that you can say. I promise we're getting there just in a few minutes, okay? So don't go away. So rules when you're the speaker, okay? Make sure that you're speaking for yourself, that you're not mind reading and you're not speaking for him. And I hear this all the time, even when I coach women. I haven't even finished a sentence and the person is already speaking their thoughts. So, I really just highly encourage you that when you're speaking, just don't make any assumptions. Just speak for yourself and where you're coming from, and don't, assume how he's going to react, how he's going to feel, and just speak for yourself. Another rule that I am so guilty of breaking all the time is talking like on and on and on. Make sure that you're actually pausing and you're giving your husband space to respond. I know that a lot of times when I speak, I'm so guilty of just going on and on and on. And it drives my husband crazy. And he's like done, in the conversation. So before you even have the conversation, if you're somebody who tends to talk, just really be conscious of that. And maybe you can even, I don't know, tell him, hey, I know I tend to talk on and on and on. Just let me know if I'm, rambling or whatever, if I'm going on and you need to respond. So you can ask him to hold you accountable for that. Okay? And then the other one is just being clear and specific, which something I'm also sometimes guilty of because I sometimes have such a hard time being clear and specific. But it comes down to really being intentional in your communication and really clarifying what you want to say, what you need to say, and so on. So don't generalize stuff. Make sure that you have a specific roadmap of what you're going to talk about or what you want to say. And then some rules that when you're a listener, that are really powerful. Listening, like I said before, is also so important in communication. It's not just about talking. It's really listening where you really get what your partner is communicating to you, not through your own filter, but just through a filter, not even a filter, but just listening to what he is actually saying. So to do that, what's really, really helpful is paraphrasing what you hear in your own words, of course, and let your husband know that you're hearing him and you're understanding what he's saying. And you can just listen, and then you can tell him things like, yeah, I got it, or I understand, or I hear you, or something like that. And really, check in with yourself and really make sure that you're not putting your own thoughts and opinions. And actually, that's the other rule, is really paying attention to what he's saying without, having your own thoughts about it or your own opinions, or your own context, like we talked about in last week's video. Don't bring your context in, your disempowering context into the conversation. Really come from a place of just like, this is his perspective, and I'm going to listen to what he's going to say. Okay. Who's with me? I know that was a lot, and I promise you that if you just, this little simple kind of like foundation that you set, and if you really implement these rules before you start speaking, just doing that alone is a game changer in communication. I know for me, knowing and being aware of these rules, I really it's been so game changing, because even when my husband kind of calls me out, like, hey, you're not really listening to me, I don't get defensive about it. I'm just like, oh yeah, you're right. Like, I'm not following the rules that we agreed to. So I really recommend it. Yes. Good. Listening and understanding instead of responding. Awesome, Heather. I'm so glad you're here. I feel your energy on this Facebook Live, so I love it. So now that we've kind of gone over the rules, we're going to talk about the phrases and the phases of the actual dialogue that you can use so you can be effective with him when you speak. And, depending on the current state of your relationship, communication, I know all of us are in different phases. I hear from some women that they don't even speak to their husbands, and then from other women, I know you guys are speaking, but when you're speaking, you're having arguments or whatever. So you don't have to follow all of these phases. Just, start with one at least, and see what happens when you start with one. And some of these dialogues that I'm gonna, tell you, they might seem a little awkward, or maybe, robotic, but remember that when you have this structure, and when you remember just these simple phrases, it really helps, the conversation to gain like a safe space. You focus on, of really creating a base for trust and and avoid these deconstructive arguments and defensiveness and so on. And I promise you, using these techniques is especially helpful when you're dealing with like really sensitive issues. So, you know, they're really simple, sometimes not so easy to implement, but they're pretty simple. They're just simple phrases that you can do, or they're simple strategies with phrases inside of them that you can implement that will really, you know, shift your communication. So, the first phase is mirroring. Okay, I learned this in NLP, neuro linguistic programming. This is actually something that sets off our brain. Neuro linguistic programming, if you haven't heard of it, it is a study of how our brain, you know, is programmed. So mirroring is a tactic, or, you know, a strategy that's incredible. And when you do it with your partner, it really makes a big difference. So to mirror, you know, somebody is in communication is basically paraphrasing, or you can summarize it in your own words of what they're saying. And when you mirror your husband, it makes them feel heard, and it makes them feel seen, like you're getting what they're saying. So if you, you know, are speaking, you can state your concern, or if your husband is stating his concern, and you're the listener, what that looks like is you know, you can paraphrase the concern. So you can even say something like, so what you're saying is, and then fill in the blanks, is that correct? And make sure that you ask him, you know, after you paraphrase, is that right? Is that correct? Is that what you're saying? Is that, you know, am I getting it? Like stuff like that. So you can actually be present in the conversation with him. And when they pause, you can ask him, is there more? And, you know, you can keep asking, is there more? Is there anything else? You know, so many women, they talk about like their husbands won't speak and they won't really open up. Well, if we're not asking them the questions, and like what I talked about earlier, like men, a lot of times they don't feel like we're going to really hear them. So when you paraphrase and you really mirror that communication, they're really going to, you know, they're going to start seeing that you are listening and that you're getting what he's saying. And it's so powerful and important because, you know, a lot of times when you ask them, is there more, they start opening up more, because a lot of times the first, you know, things that they're saying is not actually the real issue. A lot of times it's layered and there's more and more stuff that starts to open up. We just a lot of times don't talk about it, right? We just talk about the surface stuff. So if you want to really have deep conversations with your husband, just keep asking him, is there more? Is there more? And you know, a lot of times he'll reveal what's underneath, you know, and he's going to look for himself. And it opens up for great, you know, conversations that are deep, that are important, that lead you to feeling connected with each other. So this is a great phrase that you can use, you know, just asking, is there more? And, you know, what you're saying is, and then rephrasing or paraphrasing it, is that correct? Okay. So the second phase of the communication is validation. And when you validate your partner, it makes him feel that you think that he makes sense. And validating your partner's thoughts does not mean that you have to agree with him. It just demonstrates that, you know, that you understand how he could think differently from you, like how he can have his own perspective, and you're validating that his perspective is also okay. And like I said, you don't have to agree with it. You just validate his perspective, because, you know, he's also a human being and he can have his own opinion and perspective. And what that looks like in a conversation, or the phrase that you can use, is you can say something like this. You can say, I see where you're coming from, or what you're saying really makes sense to me. Or you can also say, I get you, I hear you, you know, I get where you're coming from. I mean, that's the one I like to use. I really get where you're coming from. So, so yeah, that's another phrase that is really powerful. And then if you're the speaker and you know, you want to be validated, not like as a person, but just in your communication, you want to make sure that he's understanding what you're saying. You can ask him, does this make sense to you? And then get that feedback. Communication is a two-way street. So really, when you're communicating with somebody, it's okay to have those conversations and to really stay connected with them in that way. So remember that. Who else is here? I see somebody else is here. So say hello if you're just logging in. I want to know who's here, who's watching. Okay, so the third phase is empathy. And to empathize with your partner really makes them feel understood. And then, if you start empathizing with your partner, you will inspire his empathy as well. So, you really want him to get, and you want to be gotten, to see why you'd feel the way that he does. So, empathy is great also with kids. Really all of these strategies are great with kids. But really just like getting into his world, and really validating, well, not valid, but empathizing with his feelings or whatever he's experiencing. So something that you can say, a phrase that you can say if you're the listener, you can say, I can see how you could feel this way. I would probably feel this way too if I was going through this. Or, just, I really feel for you, or I really feel you. I really feel how hard it is, to go through that or to experience that. I really feel how stressful it is. So really empathizing with whatever he's going through is going to be huge. In any conversation, really empathizing without, judgment or without making it wrong, that it should be another way. It's very powerful. And if you're the speaker, and you're speaking, if you want empathy to be present in your conversation, you can say, can you see why I would feel this way? So that is something, that you can share with him. You can say when you're speaking to him if you want empathy. So those are the main phrases and strategies, that I highly recommend. We just went over 3 phrases, and 3 phases, and I'm just going to go over it really quickly again. So the first one was mirroring, and that's, we paraphrase and we really kind of mirror back to them what they're saying, or you can ask them to mirror back, what you're saying. The second phase is validation, and validating is really saying something like, I see where you're coming from, is just really validating their perspective and their view. And then the third one is empathy. And to empathize with your partner, it really makes them feel understood and seen also. So, really connecting and empathizing with their feelings or what they're going through is huge. So those are the phases. And like I said before, if you guys want me to email these to you, let me know, post in the comments, or send me a DM, and I'm happy to email it to you. So now for the announcement that I'm super, super excited to share. And actually, you are the first people that I'm sharing it with you, that I'm sharing about this. I haven't shared it with anybody on any of my social media platforms or anyone. So on November 2nd, I am going to be hosting a 5-day challenge inside of this group, which is going to focus on you improving the communication with your partner. And we're going to go in depth. Like every day is going to be a new lesson that we're going to go in depth about, where you're stuck in your communication and how to get unstuck, what to do about it. I'm going to be going live every day. You're going to have an awesome workbook that you're going to work through the challenge with, or it's not, I don't even like to call it a challenge. I swear, it's like this amazing seminar. What I did is I have a program that I work with women through, and I've broken it down into 5 days, and put it into a challenge, because I know as a lot of us, moms, we don't have much time to do a course. So I broke it down into like these little mini bite-sized courses that everybody, can do. And it is going to be incredible. I had, some of the women that took the course, they said that it literally changed their life and marriage. And I'm super, super excited to share it with you in this group. I've been working so much on it. So if you're interested in joining, let me know in the comments. I will also post the link to join where you can sign up. Also, my assistant Honey, or I would say she's not even assistant, she's like my partner who's been helping me get the word about this challenge. She's also going to be reaching out to you, seeing if you want to register through DMs. So she's going to send you the link for the challenge. I'm going to be reaching out to you. I really want to make sure that during this time that we're all at home, with our husbands, with our partners, that we're really feeling empowered. And this 5-day challenge is gonna freaking empower the crap out of you. So I'm super excited, and I'm gonna post the link below in the comments. So make sure you register, and I will see you there. And thank you so much for watching. I'm super grateful for you, for this community, and I will see you next week on Thursday. I'm going to be going live again. Let me know what you think about the video or about this, this topic. If you want more communication topics, I know communication is huge, so I've been really focusing on creating more content that's focused on communication. But if there's anything else that you need support with, or you want me to share about, just, you're always free to message me, post it in the group, however you want to get in contact with me. Let me know. I'm here for you. I'm here to support you. And I am here rooting for you and for your relationship. So, to love and to families, right? Have an amazing weekend. I will see you next Thursday. Okay, bye.